Good morning, everybody. Welcome in. You'll come in and you'll be on mute, and that's kind of on purpose so we can keep the chatter down, and I'll keep admitting. I'm Anna. Just going to quickly move on to this slide as you get in here. So we are video and audio recording the sessions. We'll send all that out to you later. So we're all kind of learning through the experimenting of what we can see. Place yourself on mute if you're not already. You can do that with the space bar. We're all good if you want to get up and grab a coffee whilst we're doing this, or you've got kids to yell at in the background or pets to pat, but just turn the video off if you're doing lots of moving. And if you need to tell us anything, just use the chat function. At the moment, because I'm sharing my screen, that should be at the top of most people's screens, but it does look different on different devices. I'll admit a few more people as we go. So we're going to keep rolling. More people coming in. Welcome, everybody. Happy Friday. I think it's Friday for most of you. For some of you, it's Thursday. Thanks for joining us so late in the evening. Okay. So just again, for those people that are coming in, we are recording. We're doing that so that we can share it with you. Anyone that's seen our previous recordings will know that we're trying to share as much of not just the good, but some also the bad and the ugly of what we're doing. So we will record. And this one, we might do some recording while we're in the breakout rooms, whilst we're discussing, but your hosts in the breakout rooms will help with that. I'm just going to quickly send a chat to everybody that's in, because we have sorry, I'm just going to go everyone. We have a online link that we'd like you to look at. So I'm just going to flip to that slide as I'm talking. If you can all see that link, I've also put it in the chat. So you can copy and paste right out of the chat. And this is something that we are going to use shortly. So if you can, just pop into a second browser. I know that's probably a bit harder if you're on a handheld. So. But if you can, log into that. Again, for those just coming in, that link is also in the chat function. You should be able to copy and paste straight out of the chat function. So welcome everyone. Just again, briefly, I'm going to go back. We're video recording, mute, stop video, all of those things if you've got other things to distract you. But please tell us anything you need to tell us through the chat function. That's probably the best way to go. Again, if you've just popped in, this is a web link that we'll be using for the chat today. So very, very briefly from me, Anna Kelderman, welcome to Seminar 3 in the series. I'm glad to see so many people here. Again, I'm just admitting a few more people as we go. So happy to see so many people coming and joining us, and the more people that come and join us, the better for our sharing and for our recording. Max, I'll hand to you to do a little just welcome of yourself, intro of yourself.
Sure thing. I'm Max Hardy. I've been doing this with Anna now, and we're having a lot of fun and learning heaps from you and from each other. I thought it might be a good thing to do that we could actually, whether you could all use the chat function to tell us what country you're zooming in from. So I'm zooming in from Wurundjeri country in Fitzroy. So if you just send that to everyone.
Yeah, I'm zooming in from Whadjuk country in WA. And last time we had, I think we even managed to get someone coming in from some country in Canada. So we're reaching the world at the moment, which is lovely.
That's fantastic. So it's lovely to see where you're all from. That's great.
Other thing, just one more thing, Max, before we get going. One of the other things that we kind of want to do is just play a little bit with one more tool. And it's not a particularly exciting tool, but for those of you who are going to run something like this, it might help. If you click on the participants tab that you should see at the top of your screen at the moment, or potentially to the bottom, you can actually have a look at, you've basically got a function to answer a question and say yes or no. So this is not a formal poll. This is not going to make it to any kind of world record, but we just want to know how many of you have joined us before on one of these webinars so far. So if you can just hit yes or no, and we can see the greens and the reds lighting up, which is great for us. Well, that's great. We've got quite a few yeses and a few no's, which is wonderful. So welcome to the yeses again. We really appreciate you coming back. And thank you again to the no's for joining us. A couple of other things just before we get rolling, because we've got a couple of minutes before we said we'd really get started. There's been a few questions. People have said things to us offline, and we thought we'd just share that before we get started today. Somebody was talking about Zoom defaults with private chats. Yes, there is an actual facility for us as hosts to limit private chats between people, and we haven't for now, but we would like to hear from you if you're not happy with private chats that you've been receiving, because we can make them more secure and more private. So this is more, we're putting faith in this group to not be sending anyone dodgy chats. But yeah, there was a comment about the private chat between participants. Having said that, you can in fact chat at the moment privately between yourselves, or you can chat privately to me, Max, Andrew, James, or you can chat to everyone, as we're doing with our welcomes to country, or our acknowledgement of country. And another one which came through was a new rule of thumb, which we'll add to the previous list, which is make sure you're kind of aware of where your head's at, because where your head is at on the screen can make a difference for people using smaller handheld devices. So if you can try and be quite central and not have your head too high, apparently you should be able to see people's heads really well. Now I'm going to hand over to Max. I'm going to keep making sure that I'm admitting people, and I'm going to stop talking for a little while.
Okay, well, I've just wanted to share, I learned something new the other day too, and that is that in breakout rooms that you can all use the whiteboard function in your different rooms, and then you can share them with the whole group when you come back. So that's kind of a cool thing to do. There's a little video you can go to with Zoom as to how to do that. So I'm happy to share that. I'll find that and put it into chat at some point, perhaps towards the end, but that's really kind of pretty cool. I'm really thrilled that we have Andrew and Jaymes from Harvest and the HiVE. They'll introduce themselves, I'm sure, but I've known Andrew for many years, and he's one of the serial tweeters and bloggers in the world of community engagement. And I know Jaymes has got a heap of technical experience. Andrew is newish to the HiVE, but we've been working together on how we might do this session, and our aim is just to give you an experience of some of the tools, especially some of the ones that are lesser well known. So that's what we're keen to do. So looking forward to what you've got to share with us, Andrew and Jaymes, and we'll have a bit of fun exploring some tools together. So over to you, Andrew.
Hello everyone, welcome to the webinar today. I'm on Kaurna country in South Australia in Adelaide. I'm going to take you through a quick overview of the HiVE, which is a digital community engagement platform which comes out of Harvard's digital planning, and it's our main product, but we do have a number of other digital engagement products which are available. So I'm going to try and share my screen now, so hopefully this works.
You're all good, Andrew.
Is it working?
No, not yet.
Okay, 1 second.
See, we all have to be super patient on this at the moment and figure ourselves out. I'm fairly certain you should be able to do it because you're co-hosting. So for those listening in, we have the ability to design who's the co-hosts or who's hosting the session. Andrew, you just keep going. As soon as your screen comes up, oh, I can stop talking. Okay. All good.
Well, we've been doing so many webinars, it's like, which one do you want to use? So we're on Zoom today, and now I'm sharing my screen. So everyone should be able to see, I'll just make this a little bit bigger. There we go. So everyone should now be able to see the demo site of the HiVE, which, as I said, is our main digital engagement platform product out of Harvest Digital Planning. Harvest Digital Planning are an Australian-based company with most of the team, all the developers based in Melbourne, and then we have a staff member, myself, in Adelaide, Cindy, who's in Sydney, and Brian, who's based in Brisbane in Queensland. So we cover all of Australia, but we have clients across Australia, New Zealand, and also Canada. So what you can see there on the screen is basically what the HiVE has to offer as a digital engagement platform. So the demo page is actually built on the HiVE so that we can show the capabilities that we have to offer. So straight away, as you go into the HiVE, you can see there is the main banner. What we get normally is local government, state government clients, and other organizations. They'll have their own kind of branding, their logo, their color scheme. It's all customizable, and you can have a video banner or picture banner in that first opening homepage. As we move down the page, you'll start to see a layout of project cards. And so usually if we're working with local government or state government, these would be the open consultations that are the projects that are currently ongoing. And as you go further down the page, you get things like active consultations that are still ongoing but awaiting feedback, and then often closed consultations. In the top here we have, you've been shared this demo link, so you'll be able to go in after the webinar and have a play around yourself. But basically there's a number of demonstrations here where you can see how different content tools, different participation tools work within the HiVE. Now the HiVE has 9 participation tools and 25 content tools. Now the participation tools are those tools that you can use during a consultation to gather feedback and engagement from your community members, whereas the content tools are those tools that just enhance the experience and the journey through the consultation. Things that help you inform what's going on. In those 9 participation tools that we have the standard kind of forum, conversation tools, a survey tool, those kind of real standard online but also offline mirrored tools. But also within the HiVE, we have a couple of unique and premium tools, which I'm going to show you today. And then when we go into the breakout rooms, you're going to get a chance to just have a little play with them and have a go. So once you go down the demo page, we go into those participation tools. So you can see all 9 here. We have Social Map, Fund It, Gather, Visioner, the Form, which is our survey tool, a question and answer tool, a conversation tool, forum tool, and then the quick poll tool. And then if you keep going underneath that, there's all our content tools. And when you do get a chance to play with this after the webinar, I would certainly suggest that you have a look at my favorite tool, which is unfortunately right at the bottom, Hotspot, and that's a real favorite of mine. But what we're going to look at today is, first of all, we're going to have a look at this social map tool. The Harvest Digital Planning Company was set up by 2 guys that had worked in urban planning for quite a while, and so the company's come together on that basis of people, place, and technology, and social map is certainly one of our feathers in our cap when it comes to participation tools. The social map is a mapping tool that allows you to use different base maps and different layers within a map. So here we've got an example here, and allows you to collect information spatially. So I can just zoom in here. You can see that this example has a number of pins, so you can categorize pins by color, by icon, and if they bunch together, they have the numbers on. And if we zoom in further to those pins, let's pick on this one. Hopefully it's got something good. You can collect comments like, you know, cars illegally parked here. If you were doing a consultation on bike lanes, you know, you could collect information from cyclists and pedestrians alike. And as you can see, the map is fully customizable and movable. You can put layers in. So this yellow dotted line here is a layer of an existing probably bike lane or train line. You can add markers, so anyone that's logging in, you can ask them anonymously to pin, or you can get them to register to the site, which means you're collecting additional data and you're able to also feed back to them easily once the consultation is finished. When building the social map, you can add a number of different map bases. So you can have standard black and white maps. You can have maps like this one that's kind of a little bit like the Google map system. And we also do have a 3D option, which if I just jump back quickly.
No, it links off the page you were just on.
This is, oh, sorry.
Oh, that's not the social map. That's not the social map, Andrew.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we do have 3D options which you can build into the social map. The next tool I'm going to show you, and one of the breakout rooms is going to get to have a play with, is our Fund It tool, which is a participatory budgeting tool. So many of you that work in community engagement and in that community sector would have heard of participatory budgeting. Participatory budgeting is that option where you could potentially collect ideas from communities and community groups, residents, before putting them up to share out a pot of money, a budget amongst those ideas. Or even if you're in local government, you might have a big pot of community money that you want to share around some projects that the council has come up with. So this example here is based on dollar amounts. And you can see below that we've got a budget of around $100,000, and underneath there are a number of projects with information, and you can click here to read more. And there's the tag of how much that project's going to cost, and if you want to fund it, you click fund this, and it takes that initial $10,000 off that total there. There's also opportunities to like and go through that. One of the unique things with this Fund It tool is that we can also add, so rather than using the dollar amount, we can actually turn it into points. So it could be projects where you're not focusing on the budget or the money, but you will just want to look for support for ideas and projects, and you can turn the dollar into just points. So it might be that you give someone 100 points and each project is worth 10 to 30 points along those lines. And then here's the example here. So we've got an example here, 100 points, and then you've got different projects where you can fund them. So I just funded those two, 60 points. So I've got 40 points left. You can look through the projects. And so that's a really good way of asking the community to either fund or support projects through the points or the dollar sharing through participatory budgets. We have another tool which I'm going to show you now, which links ideally with the Fund It tool and is probably best used prior to using the Fund It tool, and that's the Gather tool here, which I'm just about to click on. But we also have the Visioner tool, which also works quite well alongside the Fund It tool. Now, the difference between the Gather tool and the Visioner tool is not a lot. They're both really good ideation tools. The Visioner tool, when you use it, looks more like Post-it notes when they appear on the wall, and the character limit is a lot lower. Whereas the gather tool, you can actually use for kind of story collecting and ideation in the longer format, where you can ask people to share those ideas and post them. And what you can also do is enable other members of the community to comment on them, upvote them, downvote them, but also the person can post in, as well as text, images and video. So if you're really going for that ideation, or we've seen examples of competitions where people have run competitions and collected the competition entries, paintings and things like that. One of our clients at the moment, City of Canterbury Bankstown, is using this tool to develop a Monopoly board game version of their city. Obviously lots of people in isolation playing a lot of board games, and so they're using it as an ideation tool to actually develop their own Monopoly version of their city. So what key iconic locations, buildings, etc. should they include on a Monopoly version of Canterbury Bankstown? So here it is. So this example here is tell us what you love about your neighborhood. And you can see here, there's a lot of posts where people have shared their stories, some videos, some pictures. And what you can also see is these tags here. So video winner, council's choice. The site admin can actually flag posts that are really either popular, or if it's a competition, a winner, top choice, that kind of thing, as you're going through the process to draw people on to comment them. As I said before, this is a real good precursor for the Fund It tool, because if you're collecting ideas for a pot of money, it might be that you use the Gather or the Visioner tool to collect those ideas and get people to vote on them before they go on to that next stage of sharing the pots of money. And it's really simple to post an idea as a user. You click in here, and of course I'm not signed in.
Can I just make a point about this tool, Andrew?
Sure, go, Jaymes.
So this is all about user-generated content, UGC. So in some ways, it's sort of speaking the language of social media. So in a lot of instances, in your projects, you may have used social media and things like Facebook or Instagram in the past to gather data or to generate conversations, or, get people talking, or to get sort of qualitative results and tap the sentiment of the community. This takes the language of social media visually and functionally, and it puts it within your site. So the value of this is that you avoid a lot of the risk involved with social media. You can maintain a little more control over the narrative in terms of the fact that people are bound by your terms of use. And it's highly intuitive, because people are so used to these kind of idea walls, or these kind of picture of video story walls that they use all the time in social media. This takes all of that and puts it within your own kind of site, and it allows you also to structure it a little bit more, so you can kind of give it a bit more of a framework or a bit more structure to work within than you would have just with social media. It also means that, unlike with social media, the data is stored in your country as well, which is really important for data sovereignty if you work in government of any kind.
Fantastic. I know we're probably keen to jump in and give things a go. So we're just about there, Andrew?
Yeah, so I'll just quickly just showing that this is a form for the Gather tool. So really simple to upload, what you're talking about. You've got a maximum length on this particular one of 2,000 characters. I think you can actually go a lot higher than that. The Visioner tool is a little bit lower because they appear on little post-it notes. You can categorize, you can add photos and videos, and then you can just submit, and that shows up, and then you've got that option where if you're another user, you can actually add a comment and you can like it, and we can also add downvotes as well, and you can socially share as well, which whilst we're managing and keeping an eye on what's going on, people who are taking part in this consultation can actually socially share it via Facebook, LinkedIn and Twitter, which is really good because it means that they're inviting their friends and family to take part in those consultations.
Terrific.
Okay, I'll stop sharing.
Well, I think Anna's going to break us into groups now, which is great. We did have a question from Tiffany about, can all these tools be separate plugins to embed on my own site? So I don't know whether Andrew or Jaymes, you could answer that in about 5 seconds.
Sure. So not at the moment, but in the future, yes.
Okay, great. Thanks. Anna.
No, I was just going to say we're going to go into Breakout, so you can, we're going to send you into Breakouts, and Jaymes, Max and Andrew will sort of lead you through a discussion about just one of those tools. Andrew, you're going to be in room 1, and Jaymes in room 2, and Max in room 3. So I'm just going to send you all there now. For those who are uninitiated about breakout rooms, this is also a great opportunity to see how it works, where you send people off to do workshops together. But yeah, enjoy that. You'll be looking at the tool, think about how useful it is, what other tools might be good to complement with it, and how might we use it in the post-COVID world. But I'll send those questions through to the chat functions as well, and I'll pop in and see you. See you soon. All right, welcome back in, everybody. Nice to see you all returning bit by bit. I hope you enjoyed that little experience, because it is quite fun to sort of see how the breakout rooms work, as well as actually having a conversation while you're in them. And I think we put in our rules of thumb that we sent that, you know, if you're going to have a really sort of proper sort of workshop discussion in the breakout rooms, maybe 2 or 3 people is plenty. But if you're going to have a bit of a conversation, sort of a mini seminar, then the number that we sent through then I think was okay. I'm sure you'll let us know. And all that feedback's really good, because all of that feedback will help us help everyone get better at this. So is everyone back? I think everyone's back. I can see everybody being back. That's great. We're going to do, and I sort of popped into rooms, and we're going to do a little reporting back. We just want to hear a bit about what you thought about that particular tool that you played with. We're going to go room 1, then room 2, then room 3. I hope you've nominated yourselves. Nods from people that have nominated themselves. If not, I have written a list of names from each of the rooms, so you'll get called upon. So really, like, what did you think of it? In what situations would it be useful? How might it complement other tools? And what does it look like post-COVID? Is it something that you can reintegrate back into normal and old school engagement? What does it work with undigitally? So I'm going to go with room 1 first. So if you are meant to be reporting back, now's a good time to unmute yourself.
Yep, done that. Cool. Yeah, so I think we thought the tool's very versatile for using in a range of situations. So you sort of you know, traffic studies, mapping your favourite birds, strategic planning, sort of what people might like to sort of see the good and the bad in their town, their neighbourhood. And it usually gets good buy-in, that sort of tool. People love dropping pins on things. And you can complement it with a range of other tools that you might have online. So a survey tool, so people can answer a few more questions about the actual thing that they've pinned. You could even use the Gather tool so that people can share a bit more content, photos and other sorts of things. So yes, it's something that you can add value to within the online environment.
Sorry, I'll butt in very quickly. Yes, it was a mapping tool. There was a couple of questions.
Sorry,
I
yes.
should have said, yes.
What is this mapping tool? Sorry, mapping. So in terms of how does this look post-COVID when we can do face-to-face? I guess you can have your mapping tool on a tablet, and you can you know, be standing at locations and actually doing intercept, say if it's pedestrians about pedestrian routes, or cyclists about maybe new cycling connections. So it's something that you can take onto the streets and actually do. I mean, I've actually found that's quite tricky to actually intercept people. But we often, you know, to be honest, resort to just paper-based sort of doing stuff. Something about screens and intercepting people, but it's all possible. Yeah, I think it's obviously a pretty versatile tool for a range of projects that we might do in, I'm in government, but yeah.
Fantastic. Anybody else from room 1 want to weigh in before we move to room 2? Excellent. Room 2, presenting back? Did you nominate someone?
We did not nominate somebody, so we're going to have to pull someone out who's feeling
Fly by
better.
the seat of our pants. Well, I
Yeah.
know, Catherine, you're usually pretty good at listening, so maybe I'll just unmute you. Catherine, can you maybe share? Are you there still? Yes. Unmute. Sorry.
There we are. Thanks.
And
I'm on a handheld. So our tool was Gather. It brings together stories. It was a storytelling tool that was talked about. I'm on a handheld device. It's really easy to use. I think it gives you a lot of text. There was a discussion about liking. You can only like things once, but you can like as many things as you want to like. And you can comment on some of those stories, which is great. Yeah, I find it really easy to use. I think it's a wonderful way of capturing broad, beautiful ideas, not necessarily tied to places. So you can set themes, and then there are also categories which you can submit your story under a number of different categories.
Yeah, that's great. And
Yeah.
Catherine, I just have to say thanks to Catherine. Catherine was the one that gave us the new rule of thumb about handheld devices and where our heads are at. Are our heads in the right spot, Catherine?
Yeah, they are.
Good, thank you. Anything else from room 2?
We did talk a little bit about, I guess, how you can take these tools and get more out of them, or you know, what are the kind of sort of the things you need to do to make these tools really work for you. And we talked a little bit about the importance of surrounding a tool like this with really strong content. That's content that demonstrates that you understand who your audience is, how they talk, what their priorities are, what their values are, and those kinds of things, so you can really invite participation from people and give them a bit of an emotional connection. Because this is storytelling. This is a tool that can be used for so many different things. It can be used for art competitions, it can be used for heritage studies, but at the end of the day, it's about sharing things. It's about sharing user-generated content. So you need to give people a bit of a way in, and if you want to make these tools work, you have to provide that emotional connection through the content that you surround your tool with.
Yeah, that's great. And I think we put that in the rules of thumb too. None of this online stuff really works without a good process. And you have to create the process the same way you would if you were delivering an entirely face-to-face process. I'll move to room 3. Just while we're going to room 3, anyone who has any questions, put them in the chat function now. We'll make sure that Andrew and James can answer them before we get off today. And if you've got any other things that you want to just let us know, don't forget to use chat function. Room 3, who's reporting? Go. Someone's sharing their screen.
Can you see that?
Well, I can see the little one. I'm hoping
yeah, but I
bring it
can't
up
see
nice
the
and
big one. There we go. I'm so sorry. They're the questions from the group. How do we track comments? So this was the participatory budget. This was the funded one. We had $300,000 to play with for a local council. And it was some of the questions that came up was as people were allocating money to different things, they went, oh, it'd be nice to be able to leave a comment as I'm allocating money. So one of the questions was, how do we track comments about different issues as they come up? Like, yes, I want more trees, but we'd love them to be native, for example. So how do we gather those comments as people are allocating their funding? Some people had money left over and they wanted to be able to flag on the tool that money should go somewhere, not just go back into a bucket. Correct, Max, interrupt me if I'm wrong.
Oh, that's right.
Be good to see some of people's reasoning behind people's preferences, but I think that's probably come up in the other conversations. How do you combine these tools? But we were allocating money and people wanted to see why people were allocating money like that. That's the same comment. The next one I've doubled up there. Interesting, someone just commented that you can't change your mind after submitting. We're not sure if that's true or not, but that sort of came up. And step 2 didn't seem to correlate with step 1, but maybe that was just, we weren't quite sure what we were doing there. So I'm stopping share.
Okay.
I'm sorry if you missed that. Did anyone see that whiteboard?
Not really, but I think,
That's
Jacinta, what
weird.
we can do is, as long as we can get a version of that, we can send it around as part of our notes anyway,
Sure, yeah.
which
That's
would be
annoying.
fabulous.
Sorry about that, everyone.
Oh,
That's all right. We're all learning.
This is kind of a no-fail zone, just for a little bit longer, I think.
That's annoying. You could see the screen at the beginning and then I wasn't unmuted. Anyway, there you go. That, I don't know if I missed something from the group.
Yeah, anyone else from room 3 quickly before we start to wrap up so you can get about your day? No? All right. So we've got a couple of questions that have come through on the chat function. There's a reminder about going to the demo site, and again that will be in the pack that we send to you. It will be a bit quicker this time because we don't have to type up lots of different bits of information, so sorry it took so long last time. But there's a couple there about sort of prices of plans, and Andrew, do you want to touch on that, or maybe you can be in touch with Jean separately, or you'd like to answer that, Sherry?
Yeah, price of cheapest plan for starting a farmer's market. If it's a not-for-profit, then we have different subscription plans to our normal subscription plan. But as a single HiVE project for 6 months, which is just the one project for 6 months, it's I'm guessing this is Australia, 6,500 Australian dollars for 6 months.
Which gives you access to quite a few of the tools, doesn't it?
That's a single project, so that's most of the tools. Yeah, if you went multi-project, obviously it's a lot more.
Yeah. There's another question here which I think is excellent and probably the unthought of issue with all of the online tools that I've ever used is how much resourcing do you allow to adequately monitor and respond to comments or answer questions that seek a response on one of these tools?
I'm sure Jaymes is going to say something about this, but basically everyone who becomes a client, depending on what level of client they become, gets a level of support. So that'll be an account manager, a number of catch-ups through the year, but also you can touch with that account manager, you know, when you need support with regards to the use of the site. We have technical support through a help desk. Moderation is done 24/7 as well. And what else can I add in there? Jaymes, have you got anything?
Yeah, I'd say that in terms of the question about the level of resourcing required to adequately monitor and respond, the thing about this platform is that it's built to be as simple as possible. So there's a really rigorous system of notifications that go through, so you could have a single resource within your team could probably adequately look after a pretty comprehensive multi-project site. The important thing is that they're receiving notifications whenever they need to address something. So if there's a contribution made, if something needs to be responded to, if there's a moderation referral from our moderators and something needs to be reviewed and signed off on or rejected, all these kinds of things come through to a single contact, and responding to things, checking things, or responding to referrals for things like moderation, they're very simple and fluid processes. So this is a platform that's really built with the non-technical user in mind, and maybe with the busy user in mind as well. So it's not hard to integrate it into your workflow, you know, pretty simply. So you wouldn't need a huge team looking after a site like this. In most instances, people have a single contact, single resource within their team who looks after the site, and it's generally they're not dedicated only to the site.
Great. So there's a couple more questions I think which are specific to your tool. We might get them answered offline and send the answers out. There's one in there I think which is sort of more general to how you set up any of these sorts of projects online. I think one of the rules that I've come up with, and it doesn't matter which tool I use, is you actually need to spend quite a bit of time setting it up and then thinking about who has to approve all the content. Because the difference between a face-to-face meeting and online content is the online content doesn't disappear. So the time that it takes to get approvals from clients, the specific wording of every second sentence, all of that is just much more time intensive in the build. And so you can actually build one of these sites. Most of the tools have a similar sort of time to build that I've found so far. You can build them really quickly. You could probably build them in a 24-hour period if you're in a rush. It's not the building of it that actually takes the time. It's all of the stuff. It's the design of the questions that you're asking. It's the amount of approvals up the chain. If you're dealing at state government, it's 7 people up the chain. If you're dealing at federal government, it's probably 15 people up the chain. Most local governments, it's at least 2 or 3. So they're the sort of things that are probably more of a factor than how long does it actually take to set up the site. I'm going to make sure that we get the questions that haven't been answered. I think we want to wrap up. We want to promise to wrap up always within the hour for you. So we're going to try and do that, Max.
I think so. Yep, that sounds good.
I think we didn't do it at the start, and we just want to keep sharing with you. The reason we're doing this is that we think we need to just provide a space for people to see what's available, to gain further insights about how we can continue to engage, and maybe figure out a way to use all of these learnings well beyond this period of distancing, and figure out maybe just, and I think Andrew said something about this on LinkedIn or Twitter yesterday, how do we actually take the experience that we're having now and build a better democracy at the end of it, because we're actually seeing people become more engaged. So let's all keep learning, let's all keep doing this. And it doesn't work without all of you attending and contributing in this way. So we thank you so much for joining us. We'll keep sending out answers and summaries and videos. We're planning our next one. I'm not sure exactly when it is now.
I think maybe 2 weeks, don't we? Might be 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks is a decent turnaround for us to get ourselves organised again. So we will keep sending out information, and we will keep this going for ages. We think at this stage, this time I think we're going to send out another email for you just to ask, is there anything else that we can do? Would you like to find out more about anything specific, and what might you want to bring to a future session if you'd like to help facilitate with us? So I'm just going to say thank you very much from me. Again, it is extraordinary to see so many people getting in touch and talking this through at the moment. Absolutely loving it. Thank you from me.
Yep, and thank you from me. It sounds like the 2 Ronnies, doesn't it? But no, it's been brilliant. So thanks for coming on the journey with us. We just find it so helpful to learn stuff in a fairly safe place, and because sometimes when you're doing this live on a community engagement project, it is, I guess the stakes seem that much higher, but it's amazing how much grace people are showing as we're all learning to adapt to doing things differently. And I feel like we're getting better at it all the time. So I think that's you know, it's been really good for us. So
yeah, thank you. And thank you, Andrew, and thank you, Jaymes. Yes. We will see you all soon.
No doubt. Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Bye
you.
all.